Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Dayton Audio MK402BT. BT stands for Bluetooth. I was contacted by Parts Express and they wanted me to have a first look at the MK402 Bluetooth. They've had the MK402s for a while now. They're still relatively new, but they wanted me to take a look, and so thank you to Parts Express for giving me the opportunity. As far as specs goes, these are small bookshelf speakers. They have a 4-inch driver. They are treated paper. The tweeter is 3/4 inches. It has a built-in amplifier that puts out 40 watts RMS, and it also has Bluetooth capabilities. In addition, it has a 3.5mm input jack. If you have something that outputs RCAs, you can always get an inexpensive adapter for that. The specs say that they go from 60 Hz to 20,000 Hz, and I believe that. On the top of the right speaker, you'll notice it has controls. The M button is used to change between Bluetooth and auxiliary mode. Then you have your volume up and volume down buttons. You can actually hold these down to be able to skip back or skip forward a track also. And then you have your play pause button. It comes with a 3.5mm cable, as well as the power adapter and also speaker wire. And I was kind of surprised how nice this speaker wire was. It isn't like those cheap ones that you usually get with speakers. That's of course so you can connect your right speaker to your left one. That's something you can't usually get with Bluetooth speakers, which is stereo separation, because you have two speakers and you can actually separate them and place them apart from each other. Another thing I want to take a look at is just that these speaker terminals are pretty awesome for the price. Normally you get some spring clips, but with these you can connect banana cables, so I really like that. So the first thing I did was I listened to them here in my studio, hooked them up, very simple. I have a turntable here that I just recently purchased, and it has an RCA output. And so typically you'd have to have an amplifier and some speakers. With this, it's kind of cool because you just hook them up directly into that and it's set to go. I did have to use a 3.5mm to RCA cable that came with a turntable, but just something to take note of. I also connected it to an Echo Dot. I tried it with Bluetooth with my phone using Spotify, and now the Google Home Mini actually has the capability to use Bluetooth to any speakers and use those as your default output. And so that's something I tried as well. And last, I tried them here on my desk. So I tried them in a few different locations to see how they sounded. When I had them in my listening area, I wasn't overly impressed, to be honest. When I first heard them, I thought that the highs were a little too bright. And I knew by looking at these speakers that they'd have some pretty impressive bass, which they did. But it's just that the highs seemed a little bit overbearing, to be honest. But then I got them onto my desk. Initially, I wasn't even going to listen to them here on my desk because I figured that if they were bright in my listening area, sitting from about 8 feet away, they're going to be extremely bright on my desk, sitting 2 to 3 feet away. And that wasn't actually the case. What sounded harsh out there sounded more airy and clear when it was up close. It was a weird thing that happened. It wasn't something that I was expecting, but I was impressed with them here on my desk. So I took a few measurements using my calibrated microphone, and I did find that what they said was true. It does go from 60 Hertz all the way up to 20,000 Hertz. It also can reach down to below 50 Hertz, as you can see here. So with regards to frequency response, I give it an 8 out of 10. Every speaker has its own sound signature, and the sound signature is bright. I don't typically like a bright speaker personally, but for some reason on my desk, like I said earlier, I like the way that these sound on there. I would prefer that they're a flatter response, so I'm going to give these a 75 out of 100 for sound signature. Now here on my desk, when it comes to spatial reproduction, meaning the soundstage and imaging, I was very impressed. There's a solid center image, and the soundstage sounded wide. I could easily place where instruments and vocals were coming from. And so for spatial reproduction, I'm going to have to give these a 90%. Now for volume, they get decently loud. Out in my listening area, that's a pretty big area. I would say it's about 500 square feet versus here on my desk, it's a much smaller area. I'd say the whole room is about 300 square feet, but I'm listening close up. So they're more than loud enough when I'm listening at this distance here. But in a larger area, I would want some speakers that are larger that could play louder. For loudness, I'm going to give these a 75%. As far as ease of setup, I'm going to have to give these an 85%. They were pretty easy to set up. Just had to plug in the power cable, the one speaker to the other, and either Bluetooth, which was easy to set up, or a 3.5mm input jack. With regard to input options, I'm going to give it an 85%. It does have Bluetooth and it has that 3.5mm input. I would prefer that they had an option for RCAs instead of the 3.5, but that's just me nitpicking. As far as the size of the speaker, nobody wants huge speakers, especially on your desk. For size, these are pretty small. They're not the smallest speakers I've ever seen, so for size, I'm going to give them an 85%. For aesthetics, I'm going to give them an 85% as well. They do have a cover for the front of these, but I think they look better without them. I like seeing that cool woofer there. The chamfered edges are a nice touch, something that they didn't really have to focus on, but I think it gives it a distinct look. And lastly, value. I think these are a great value. Right now, I see them online for 98 bucks. $98. These are powered Bluetooth speakers. You get 2 of them. They sound impressive for $98. That's their current price. They might go up, they might go down, but I am very impressed. I'm going to give them 100%. So as you know, I do a weighted system, so each one of these criteria are different to me. Some are more important, some are less important. When I add up all the criteria, these Dayton Audio MK402BTs get an 84%. So let's look at the competition. Who are these up against? One of the most popular budget bookshelf speakers are the Mica MB42Xs. They also have a powered version called the PB42Xs. Those also have a 4-inch bass driver and a similar tweeter. Let's look at these side by side. Don't these look very similar? The MB42Xs do implement a better crossover. It uses something called the Zobel network, which balances the impedance, giving you a better frequency response and overall better performance. Out of the box, the MB42Xs and the PB42Xs are going to give you a better response without any equalization. One thing to note though is that the MB42Xs and the PB42Xs don't have as much bass as these guys do. The biggest competition doesn't come from any other manufacturer, it comes from Dayton Audio themselves. I think one of the best options is actually the MK402s, the non-Bluetooth, non-powered ones, combined with the Dayton Audio DTA 2.1 Bluetooth amplifier. And the reason I say that is from the measurements, you can tell that these tweeters, the highs, they slope upward. So you have a rising frequency response for the highs. Some people are not going to like that sound. Because these are self-powered, you don't have very many options as far as equalization. So with the Dayton DTA 2.1 BT, it has a tone control and you can actually turn down the treble a little bit and kind of tame those highs. I recently did a review on the DTA 2.1 BT, and from that review, you'll see that it does have a passive output for a subwoofer, and that would pair perfectly with these speakers. And just a quick side note, I did have a little bit of a concern that these are powered, and so one speaker has larger internal volume than the other one because the amplifier does take up some space in there. For my measurement test, I didn't see a huge difference between the two, but I'm sure if I were to test it a little bit more, I would see that there is a difference. That's something you wouldn't have to worry about if you got the regular MK402s non-powered, because they are both exactly the same. I'm going to link to all these products in the description, but I'm also going to link to an article on noaudiophile.com where he reviews the MK402s. He does some awesome DSP correction on these speakers, and he was pretty impressed with them after correction. Make sure to check them out. So who are these for? I think these are good for somebody who wants a stereo Bluetooth setup, someone who wants a quick connection. Let's say you just got a turntable and you don't want to get a separate amplifier and you don't want to mess around with accessories, extra cables. These are perfect. It's just something simple that you can hook up directly and they work really well. But really, I think these are awesome as computer speakers. Before this, I had some MB42Xs, the Micas, and an 8-inch subwoofer, and I was using a mini DSP to really tweak the sound for my listening position. Now that I heard these are staying on my desk. These are my new computer speakers. They're awesome for near field listening. So yeah, that's it. I'm really impressed with these speakers. I think they did a very good job. 84%. It's not the best speaker in the world. If you're expecting audiophile grade, maybe not for you, but they are also very inexpensive and I think they provide a great value. So thank you again to Parts Express for providing these speakers to me. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell if you want to see when my new videos are out, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.